Hi, I'm Joanne, and welcome back to the Animal Communication Business Series. We have 8 episodes, 8 shifts, and the real journey from practitioner to business owner. If you are new here, if you just happen to come along to this episode, this series is for professional animal communicators who are already doing the work. You have clients, you charge for sessions, and you're visible, but you want your practice to be sustainable, intentional, and profitable. In the last episode, we looked at something many communicators experience: working hard, showing up everywhere, and still not seeing the income reflect that effort. We explored how visibility without clarity can lead to exhaustion and why more effort isn't always the answer. So today we're moving into the next question. What actually happens when things start to work? What does it look like when your business becomes more stable, more predictable, and able to support you? Not perfectly, but practically. Because this is where things begin to shift from survival into something you can actually build on. As always, I'm joined by business architect Becs McNeill. And today we're talking about what working really looks like in a business like this. So, Bex, when someone reaches this point, what's the first thing that actually feels different?
Well, it's generally a lot less dramatic than you would imagine. You kind of think it's going to be this explosion of clients or a viral post or something like that, but it tends to be a bit quieter than that. And it's often then a gentle realization that you're waking up perhaps on the first of the month and not immediately being in kind of panic mode. And your nervous system is a lot more settled and you're not kind of running around chasing stuff all the time. So, perhaps having a rough sense of what's coming in before the month actually starts. So you're not starting from zero all of the time. You might find that you've got some practical things that are actually then starting to show. So you've got clients who are perhaps rebooking with you without you having to chase. That's lovely. When you get a notification that somebody's booked in for something and you didn't really have to do an awful lot of work for it, you've done the work previously, but it makes a big, big difference. So either referrals from somebody perhaps that you haven't spoken to for a long time as well. Um, so people have remembered you and they're recommending you, and your reputation starts to precede you in a good way. Perhaps you're making decisions about your business that comes from a place of more, does this make sense for where I'm going, rather than I need money this week, so I'm just going to say yes to stuff, even though I know it's not quite right, but I've got bills to pay. It's all of those things. The other thing is mental space. I think when you get some of that back, because you're not, I mean, not that I often have that because my brain is literally going 24/7, but being able to think ahead instead of just reacting. So, like I said in the last episode, having my Monday afternoons where I have my thinking space, where I can start looking at things and getting curious and going, well, what if I did this? Or do I fancy doing that? And not constantly being in that reactive mode. Like you said, it isn't perfect all of the time, but there are those little windows where you feel like actually I've got a handle on this. And that does make a massive, massive difference.
Wow, that is almost like a
Yeah, it's an
relaxing feeling.
exhale.
Yeah, it's like, wow. And I just want, those of you who are listening to this, is that you will get there. It does take time, and we're talking about longevity. And I think we mustn't fool ourselves. We live in this kind of space at the minute where it's like, yeah, success means you put a post out, or you're giving an offer, and then you're going to have like loads of people kind of piling in wanting to take up on your offer. That can happen, but the majority of the times it doesn't. And so it is about longevity. It is about looking ahead and saying that if I'm consistent, if I'm constant, and that's really what all the last few episodes have been about. There's been this kind of build up to what we're going to be talking about today, is that we're giving you that reassurance. We're giving you that hope that when you get all of that clarity and all the things that, your outcomes and your structures and everything align, this is where we can go. Now, that doesn't mean that, because, when you work for yourself and when you have your own business, you're going to be the sort of person that's always going to still have that, uh-oh, am I going to be able to continue? Am I still going to be able to sell my courses? Am I still able to find clients? But it has a different volume to it, I think is really what
Mhm.
my experience is. I think it's saying that you will still have those thoughts because it just kind of comes with the territory. Um, but the volume and the level of kind of distress around, am I going to succeed, or the wrangling between why is nobody booking, to knowing that, for example, for me, I know that January and February tends to be my quiet months. But I've learned now that those quiet months are my most creative months. It's like it really works very well with the hibernation element
Yeah.
of it. I can almost like shut my curtains and just be in my own space to give myself that time to be creative, to do a review of, where am I at with this? Where am my community at it? But it also means that those months don't bring in a lot of income, and I can put out a whole lot of content and it still won't bring in that conversion. But now that I've got 10 years of record, of which I'd say 6 years I've been more and more consistent with how I do things, I just know that come April, May, June, I'm going to be rushed off my feet in
Hmm.
different ways. So whereas before, when I had quiet months, I would panic and then I'd get down into the trap of got to work harder, got to post more, got to do more offers. Now I'm like, historically, it's showing me that I'm going to be pushing against the grain if I did that.
Yeah.
And so this is where the exhale comes in, and it's a really lovely place to be. It means, yes, of course, you don't take your eye off the ball. It's not about being complacent, but it's trusting yourself. I think the mindset bit when your business becomes stable is you start to trust yourself. Whereas before you were more like needing the external. Am I doing this the right way? Or
Yeah.
what are other people doing? You kind of looking outside of yourself. I've now come to a place where it's like, okay, if I'm having a quiet month, but my personal life suddenly requires me to bring in added income, I trust myself that I know
Mhm.
enough about the strategy, the clarity. I'm not just going to be like, okay, I need money. I'm going to try and attract one-to-ones, or attract this or attract. Now it's like, okay, I need X amount. How am I going to almost reverse engineer that?
Yeah.
Yeah, is this all music to your ear
Yes.
as a business architect?
Yes, Joanne. Absolutely. The reverse engineering, absolutely. But I saw a thing the other week that really resonated with me, and I sent it to my husband in actual fact, because he was having a bit of a wobble over some stuff to do with work. And it was, confidence comes from trusting your ability, not knowing everything. And
Wow.
I was like, that's what it is. And people come and go, oh, I'm not very confident. I'm like, but confidence comes from doing, and confidence comes from making mistakes, and confidence comes from experimenting, because then you get to the point where, like you've just said, you absolutely trust that you have the ability to do what it takes to do whatever you need. And I think if you can back yourself, and you know that backing yourself is a brilliant option, then you won't go too far wrong, because that stable doesn't mean that you know exactly what's coming every month forever. I mean, look at life. How often are we getting, sideswiped by curveballs constantly there? But if you are solid in your ability not to panic in those situations, and knowing that it's a manageable uncertainty, not a I don't know if I can pay my bills uncertainty. There's a much more meaningful difference in terms of that. But even if you did say, right, shit has hit the fan and I do need to get some money from somewhere, you know that you've absolutely got the skills and the ability to make that happen. It gives you so much more peace of mind. You sleep better. Um, Yeah, it's a good place to get to if you can
Yeah.
get there. So don't give up.
Also, it means you lean into the months when it's quiet. And notice I'm saying the word months, not days.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
lean into the months when it's quiet. And you really have to, get yourself up and moving when the busy months. It's kind of like being a farmer,
yeah. I
actually.
was just going
Yeah.
to say the same. It's that make hay while the
Yeah.
sun shines. That
That's
comes
right.
from somewhere, doesn't it? So yeah,
Whereas if we
absolutely.
kind of circle all the way back to episode 1, where we're talking about the mentality between, say, like an employee with a business owner, it's so different. And
Mm,
that to me is what catches everybody out, because majority of us come from an employee background. That's
yeah,
what we do. We leave college and then we get a job. So we're used to whatever the season, you get paid the same amount. And doesn't matter, you're not going to get busy months and you're not going to get quiet months in terms of your pay packet. It's going to be the same no matter what. So, but being a self-employed and a solopreneur or, business owner, it is different. You are going to have your seasons, and it's knowing how those seasons work for you. Because
mm,
again, it's the same for everybody. And I think that that's really what is, that's really what brings in the peace of mind
yeah,
that is. And also it goes back to, again, in the last episode where we have this programming, you must work hard.
mm,
So sometimes when it's the quiet season, it's so easy to feel like, oh, I should be busy. I should be busy. So you
mm.
just fill that time. But then by the time you get to those months where you are going to be busy, you're actually knackered.
Knackered. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
really learning that. And I think that's what we mean by stability. Stability, again, some people think means everything stays the same. Stability is not an external factor. The stability is the inner world.
yeah.
Like you say, the trusting
Yeah,
yourself.
if your nervous system is all over the place because you're in constant stress all the time, you're not going to make good decisions. You're not going to be able to be performing at your best, regardless of whether you're an athlete, a musician, or whatever. All of us need to be in that place. And people think like predictable is like, "Oh, that's boring. Why would I want something that's predictable?" But all I see predictable being is that there's enough of a pattern that I can have a bit of a plan. But again, I've still got the expertise and the knowledge and the years under my belt and the tools in my toolkit that if things don't quite go to plan, we course correct and we adjust and we can evolve with whatever's, showing up. Um, if you know roughly how many sessions you need to fill in order to earn a certain level of income, if you know that, your slower months tend to be at a certain time, like you've just said, you've got enough history to make reasonable forecasts rather than just crossing your fingers, closing your eyes and hoping. So yeah, I think all of this is really, I suppose it's the nirvana where we're all trying to get to. And it comes and goes. There will be seasons again within the seasons where, one minute you think, oh, I've just got a handle on everything and it's all working quite nicely, and then something will come and kind of trip you up, or you'll do what I do and go, oh, I'm gonna have a complete redesign of everything, and that's gonna open a right old can of worms. Um, but yeah, you don't need a massive, massive business. It is the clarity amongst all of it that makes such a difference. So when did you first feel like you had some stability growing in your business rather than just being lucky?
I'm going to hone it down to stability in my membership,
Mm,
because I started a membership group in 2020. It was a free group to
hmm
begin with, because it was my first time. I didn't know. And I called it the Animal Communication Confidence Builder. And that went on for 2 years. And then I knew that I wanted it to be a paid membership, because I saw that to be the stability. So
Recurring revenue.
yeah, I was looking for the
Um,
recurring revenue. But I also loved what it required from me and how it brought people together. So it ticked every box. And so the first 2 years of the membership was I would say, not predictable because I didn't really, number one, knew what to charge or what I thought people were prepared to pay for. I wasn't sure what people wanted. So each year I would change the structure a bit of the membership. I would change the content of the membership, and then people will leave as a result. But then it was also a lot of work in launching it and bringing in new people.
Hmm.
So this membership now is reached its fifth year, and it's been through lots of, changes. So confidence booster, then it went into something called deep dive, and then it moved into deep speak. So that was the other thing. It grew from a free membership to a paid month by month to then into a 6 months commitment. And then I took the step to make it the 12-month because I wanted the stability. I wanted 12 months of stability, not just from income, but from content and from
Hmm.
relationship building. So I was aiming for that longevity and the stability all the time. And today, enrollment time is always like, oh my God, goodness me, like so much activity involved in all of that. And what I found this year is that I've got loads of other things going on at the minute. As you know, I've got my Kickstarter campaign, we got this a business series. But what this is doing is helping me to look ahead. So I chose this time for my enrollment not to bring in new people, but I really wanted to tighten who going to continue for the next
Yeah.
year. I've got like other plans, but the stability of knowing that I've got them on the wait list because I've never done wait list before. It's almost like launch, enroll.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I like started that wait list about a month ago. So that wait list is that stability.
Yeah.
I have this confidence and reassurance that 80%, because waitlist is not a full-on commitment at this stage.
Yeah.
But I'm so confident in the fact that there's going to be X number of people renewing that there's just no panic, there's no wondering, there's no what ifs. And I mean, that's just like I'm so grateful and happy, like really
Yeah.
happy because I get to do the work that I absolutely love. And to me, it's such an achievement when it comes to the stability and the predictability. I get another 12 months of doing something that's so worthy, the way
Mm.
that I feel that I'm giving to others, and also just the feedback that I'm getting from the members as well. So interestingly, if we look at kind of like the panic bit, normally before when I was building it, I was focusing more on numbers. Now it's like I'm no longer looking at numbers because I'm feeling more stable, more clear in the direction that I'm going. And I've been able to add other bits, to my business. So it's not just consults, it's not just programs, it's not just a membership, but they all have this kind of, and I know you used the word ecosystem, they all align, but this membership particularly is the recurring income. It
Yeah.
is my stability. And so that's where I'm at today with it. And it's just a fantastic feeling.
Yeah. Brilliant. Those multiple income streams is, a necessity for anybody, I think, who's in business, because you never know what's going to happen. You can't have all your eggs in one basket necessarily. But I think what people try and do is they build all of those try and build multiple at the same time, and so they don't get traction with any one thing at any time. And ideally what you want to do is run with something, get that to a stage where it's actually working and ticking over before you then do the other XYZs, which is easy enough for me to say now as I sit here talking about it. Have I always done that? No, just to be transparent. But it's definitely looking at the way that you want to work with the people that you want to work. So I think you feel very lucky to be there. You've done the work, Joanne, to get there. And lots of people, again, because of what they're seeing out there, is they think that they just have to do a thing and suddenly that'll go viral and then they'll be a millionaire and everyone's happy. But actually, making stuff happen is often very boring and very tedious, and you've just got to get on and do the work. It's not glamorous all of the time, but you've got to look at the sustainability of it, because like we've said before, we've all got busy lives, we've all got other things that are happening, and we can't just get paid for doing nothing. We don't get sick pay, we don't get holiday pay, we don't get those things. So we've got to make sure that the offers that we've got sustain us, because again, once we're in that confident state, we are then more magnetic to the right people. So again, it's this, everything has that knock-on effect because you've done the work, you've got a bit more confidence, and from that confidence comes more, well, more work and more people and more confidence. So it all just keeps building and compounding. And I think then when something is sustainable, when you can keep delivering it and it doesn't cost you more than it gives you back. And I know that sounds quite obvious, but so many people build things that drain them over time and don't realize that they can change them. They feel kind of stuck that they've made this thing and now they've got this rope around their neck that they've got to keep flogging this horse. But, it's really about, you know, what you want to do, making sure you've got the hours that you want, making sure you're not stuck down a creek without a paddle, and that you're not working harder than you need to. You don't have to be just doing one-to-ones. You can do so many different things. How has your thinking shifted around what your business could look like in the future compared to sort of where you started?
I'm going to answer that in a roundabout way because the thinking is actually embracing and accepting that I need systems.
Yeah.
And I know that, again, that's not something that I was even aware of. And, use the word systems, use the word tech, use the word platforms and all that. Like, oh, no, thank you. This is not just boring, but it's like, I'm not a technical person. I didn't do this in order to become, tech. And, because I joined your membership
Yeah.
Becs at a time where I was like, I was on this platform, I was paying monthly on that and all these different things. And
Mm.
you turned me inside out to kind of streamline it,
In a
that was
nice way.
a nice way of like, I knew it wasn't working. I knew that, monies were going out to systems and softwares that I wasn't really utilizing, but I didn't know how to kind of put it all together. So when I speak about my membership and being kind of really stable at this point, I would say that a lot of it is because I'd been through that process that you
Mm,
helped me to really let go. And it took a lot of admin stuff, didn't it? Because when you're letting go of certain systems and then focusing on one or bringing in a different system that suits your needs more, there's a lot of transfer of information. And all of that is like you say, it's hard work, boring work, and you just like want to throw the towel in. But I've come through the other side, and what I'm understanding now is that this thing about burnout, the reason you get burnout is because you think you have to do it all yourself.
yeah.
But what we don't understand is that we do live in a world where if you get the right advice, because I don't think you can figure it out yourself unless you're a systems person, but that you it goes back to again your clarity about your business, the clarity about the outcome you want, the audience you want to reach, and your client journey. Then find the systems that work for you, because you can only do so much yourself. And then if you have this kind of machine working in the background,
Hmm.
like when I talk about the enrollment and the sign up forms and the wait list, all of that is machine operated.
Yeah.
And once I learned how to create a sign up form, so the first time I've had to learn how to create a sign up form or a checkout or a lead magnet. I mean, I, cried cried in my at 2 or 3 in the morning because all of that was just like, but then once you figure it out, you got a template, you just
Yeah.
repeat it. And so I want you to talk about that, Bex. It's like, because you're the systems lady, and
Yeah.
you don't see it as a bad thing, but it's just not obvious that a business
No.
needs a system to support it.
Yeah, I think because a lot of us, like we've said before, when we're starting out, we're kind of belt and braces and we're trying not to spend too much money. And so we try and bolt bits and pieces together, but you get to a certain stage and that works for a certain period of time, right? But you get to a certain stage when you are starting to be more focused on kind of scaling and optimizing, which sounds big and grand. you don't have to have a massive business to be able to scale and optimize. Just purely from a space of, if I'm doing this for one person, how can I use that to my advantage so that I don't have to do it again? Perhaps I'm not really a systems thinker. Perhaps I'm just really lazy underneath, because I'm always looking at what can I create that's going to save me time or make it easier. Well, how can I make my life easier? Like, I don't have a washing machine and then go wash all the clothes by hand myself. I want to know that I can build these things that will do the thing while I'm off doing something either more exciting or something that needs more of my time or my attention, so that it just runs. And yes, it can be painful to start some of that stuff up, and it's even more painful to move, because that's the whole business model of these systems, is that the pain of disconnect is what they're counting on, that means you will stay with them because you've invested time and effort in getting this all set up. And so many systems out there are just overcomplicated, and there isn't one. If this is the question that I hear all the time, what is the one best system that you need for such and such? If only there was one best system. It's the best system for you. And system isn't just software, it's processes, it's whatever. We have to look at you. We have to look at your business. We have to look at what you're trying to achieve to then put the infrastructure in place that allows that to happen. Now, that might be two systems that are talking to each other. It might just be one, because you've found something that actually does that for you, does everything that you need. But ultimately, these are the things that will give you stability. These are the things that will give you the agileness. I don't even think that's a word, is it? Agility, that's the word. To create something once and then be able to either duplicate it or almost take and make it something else again when the opportunity arises. So we can move very quickly when demand arises. And that's what we need to be doing to be stable and to keep growing and keep evolving our business. Because, like the Facebooks and the social platforms, and like society, nothing stands still. So just when you think you've got it all sorted, you will either need to be a couple of steps ahead, or thinking of the next stage or the next evolution, or prepare to be extinct at some point. You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep evolving. You've got to keep serving your clients. And this comes back then round to, as we were talking about, the client journey. So those systems, I never start a business with their systems. We start with them. We start with their client journey, because it depends on what you're delivering. It depends on what your clients need. It depends on the experience that you want them to have. You know, we want those people to come in, have a lovely, seamless experience, enjoy it, tell all of their friends, bring them along too, stay with you forever. So it's got to be client-centered the whole way through. And if you don't know your people, if you don't know what they need, if you're not listening, then you won't be able to sustain that growth within your business, regardless of what systems you've got in place. So yes, systems are there to give you that freedom, to give you the opportunity to spend more time doing the thing that you want to do. And for you guys, I'm imagining that's communicating with animals. You don't want to be faffing around with websites and admin and marketing. You want to be spending the time doing the thing that is your zone of genius. So absolutely treat them as such. They are there to support you rather than to contain you, really.
Yeah, and again, that's what it is, isn't it? We immediately think systems are going to like restrict us or
Mm,
make us do things a certain way, but it isn't. So the key thing to ask yourself, if you're wondering whether a certain software or a certain kind of platform or system is going to work for you, is to ask the question, will it reduce effort
yeah,
for me? And in my animal communication business, it goes to the calendar link. It
yeah.
goes to the fact that I have a checkout page. I have a mailing list, and I keep it as simple as possible because I'm not really into kind of complex, kind of fancy like pop-ups or anything like that. I just want to keep it simple because I know my audience once it's simple. When I've tried some kind of more fancy stuff, I often get the feedback like, what is this? I don't understand. Where am I supposed to click? What did you want me to do? That's or loads of those kind of questions. So it is very much in, like you say, it's not about let's start you with this system and you fit what you need to do according to what the system does. It's more like, what do you want? So it goes back. All our conversations has been about clarity of outcome, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like the next two episodes is going to be really fascinating because we're going to put it all into practice. Because I'm sure, as you and I are chatting, Bex, some of those things we're saying sound like theory, and we're trying to make it as practical and grounded and giving examples as much as possible. But actually, in the next two episodes, I'm really excited. We're going to invite in two professional animal communicators at different stages of their business. Some of them have had big breaks and wondering whether they should start it again. Some of them have been doing it quietly and thinking, well, I'm not going to be looking to be busy, but actually they do want to be more, giving of themselves. And there's some that's like been doing it for a long time and thinking, is this it? Do I just keep continuing? So we're inviting two for the next episode, communicators, and two in our last episode. And Bex is going to be giving her a guidance and her views depending on each of their different cases. So I hope you're going to be looking forward to that as well, Bex.
Yeah. Nothing like putting me on the spot.
I know we want to show what it's like if somebody was to join your membership. If they were to come to you and have a discovery call with you, how do you help them from them going, I don't know, where I'm at, or you can have somebody who's really clear about the direction they're going, but you can
Mm.
see lots of, the pitfalls. So we wanted to kind of put that into real practice. So it's great that we've kind of come to this point where we're talking about where you can get that stability. Then we can bring in examples of where, people might just be in the throes of like, where do I go from here? And then what is it like if you were to speak to Bex?
Yeah. I mean, we've got to see what everybody's up to, right? Because, the theory and the practice are two completely different things. And as we've been sat here talking about stuff, like we say, in theory, let's have a look at what it is like as people are running their businesses and the various stages that they're at and what do they need and how do they move forward. So yeah, it's going to be good fun. I'll make sure I have a good night's sleep before.
Really looking forward to that. So, in terms of this episode, here's what I want you listeners to take away from today. A business that works doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means it's sustainable enough to support you. You're not constantly starting from zero. You're not making decisions from panic, and you have enough structure in place that your work can actually grow. But here's the important part. Everything we've talked about across these episodes, identity, beliefs, structure, visibility, clarity, it doesn't land the same way until you apply it to your own business. So, as I've said, in the next two episodes, we're doing something a little different. We're bringing in two professional animal communicators with each episode to have a real, honest conversation about where they are in their business right now, what's working, where they feel stuck, and what they are navigating. And with Bex there to guide the conversation, you'll get to see how these ideas translate into real decisions, real challenges, and real next steps. Because this work isn't about getting it perfect, it's about seeing your own path more clearly. I'll see you in the next episode.